How are you all doing? Today I have a really great comment to go over with you guys, and this is something that is important for every MGTOW man, but it is especially important for this gentleman, so let's get into this. Trust me, you are going to hear a lot of different things that might play into you and how this could affect you. So just listen to what I have to say because I'm going to go over a few different points about the ways in which a parent can actually hurt you without you being aware of it. We're going to dive deep, guys. I'm going to go pretty in-depth with this topic, but let me start by saying that I'm a millennial male who is currently 31 years old and single. I do believe in the MGTOW philosophy, and I think it's an excellent place to start. However, my parents are putting a lot of pressure on me to get married, and even though I know that a divorce could result in the loss of everything I own, I'm afraid to tell them that. Given that my parents are likely to either disregard my concerns or believe that I suffer from some sort of mental illness, what would be your recommendation to defend myself? I'm aware that a good number of you guys out there have parents who are harmful. Because of his comment, I can tell that he is aware that, based on previous experiences, someone is going to try to take advantage of his feelings in order to get what they want from him. In most cases, the mother is the one who does this kind of thing. Guys, the use of emotional manipulation is a toxic trait, regardless of whether it comes from a girlfriend, a woman, or a wife. However, this behavior is typical of a large number of mothers, and it is a problem. I mean, guys, you could fall into this as well, but the thing that I'm noticing here is that I'm assuming that perhaps his parents are religious. This is a bad thing, and guys, you don't do this to girls. I mean, you could fall into this as well. Just putting this out there, guys, a lot of the things that you pass on to your children are actually very toxic because this is what was passed on to them and you can break that pattern. Because religious people have a tendency to shame their children into certain behaviors. Just throwing it out there, guys, a lot of the things that you pass on to your children are actually very toxic because this is what was passed on to them and you now. Let me preface this by saying that I am not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination. However, I have spent my entire life trying to figure out what religion I believe in. If it's right for me, it's not right for you. I read the Bible when I was a child, I read it again after my first divorce, and I read it a third time after my second divorce. A lot of religious people will want you to get married, but the church is not the church anymore. If it's right for me, it's not right for you. If it's not right for me, it's not right for you. Come on, guys, they'll let anybody in. That could be a single mother, a crackhead, a homeless guy, or even a murderer. Come on, we're going to pass the plate around to all of you, and then you can come in and sing a song. I've done a lot of research on this topic, and based on what I've learned, back in the day, the church was the glue that held societies together. However, back then, single mothers were held in contempt by the church. They used to frown upon the way people dressed, and they would measure skirts for you to come in. Single mothers would be sent up north to have the baby, and then they would come back later saying that she had surgery or something similar. This is because they used to send single mothers up north to have the baby. I remember this from my childhood, guys. They don't do anything like that anymore. It's a free-for-all. This is why so many men have left the church. But just to say this, I remember this from my childhood, guys. They don't do anything like that anymore. It's a free-for-all. Although I do not follow any religion, I am aware of certain facts, such as the fact that the Bible is considered to be one of the most read pill books I've ever read in my life, and again, I'm not trying to convert anyone to a particular religion, but if you guys are unaware, the Bible is. I don't give a damn if the red pill leads to paradise or hell. Let's go ahead and talk about this for a quick second, guys. These are a few things from the Bible that I just thought was rather meaningful and interesting. Proverbs 5 verse 6, for she cares nothing about the path to life. She walks in a crooked direction without realizing it, which is why it is imperative that my sons listen to what I have to say and do not deviate from what I am about to say. Keep your distance from her, and if you ever see the door to her house, under no circumstances should you approach it. It's not that I want to tell you to read the Bible, it's just that this is taken directly from the Bible, and the people who want you to get married are probably churchgoers and attend services. I'm not trying to convince you to do so. They look good in front of everyone and dress up a little bit, but in my opinion, lukewarm Christians, they haven't actually opened the book much at all. Now Proverbs 7 verse 24. Then, my sons, listen to me and pay attention to what I say. Do not let your heart turn to her ways or stray into her path. She has brought down many people, and her slain are a powerful throng. Do not let your heart turn to her ways or stray into her path. Guys, what that's saying is that she's been out on the streets, and that's exactly what it says. She's been out on the streets. I'm referring to the verse in Proverbs 14 verse 1 that says, "A wise woman builds her home, but a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands." I don't know how many of you guys are watching this, but if you are, raise your hands. Anyone who has been through something similar, I'm just throwing this out there, she tore down her own house with her own hands. This is a good comment from this guy, and I'm going to address this first off. Because it's important, you might have parents who shame you and try to maybe use emotional manipulation to get you to do what they want. We're going to get off the topic of religion for a minute though, but this is a good comment from this guy. They want you to ignore that for a moment and consider that if you are intelligent enough to decide that marriage may not be for you, it probably isn't, and it's better to not get in a bad marriage than to wind up later on realizing that you are in a bad marriage and that your possessions or your finances are at risk because of it. Look, we talk about this on MGTOW like it's all about it's not your sanity as a human being could very well be on the line if the marriage goes south, and taking advice from your parents who are likely married is poor advice. Your sanity as a human being could very well be on the line if the marriage goes south. Because married people are more likely to give poor advice, such as saying, you should find somebody and get married and you should have a little one and love you. Married people don't realize that their marriage is successful at this point in time. Those who have been through the process of getting a divorce will understand exactly what I'm talking about when I say that married people give terrible advice. Something like 70 to 68% of marriages end in complete failure, and the majority of the time it's the woman who initiates the divorce proceedings. I'm talking about guys who have even lower chances than playing Russian roulette. That's an even worse chance than tossing a coin. I'm trying to say that putting your entire life in jeopardy for something like this is not a smart move. I will say this particular gentleman, my advice for you is to talk to your dad first. If he is a rational and sane man, he will be more honest with you. I will say this again, because he is a married man, you are not allowed to do this in front of mom, you are not allowed to do this with mom in the next room, and you are required to find a location where mom is not present in order to do this. It is my responsibility to ensure that the wife is not let him be. I know, son, maybe you don't do it. You need to talk to your dad, feel him out first. Now, if he is one to shame you and say, well, you can't listen to him from that point, you need to talk to your dad, feel him out first. Now, if he is one to shame you and say, well, you can't listen to him from that point. If you are being pressured to get married by a religious person, you should know that if he uses your feelings against you or God against you, which I just disproved, you should think twice about agreeing to the marriage. Be wary of them because they might not know the book as well as they knows how to talk to you about what you ought to do. Now, this is what I suggest that you do. Talk to your dad and let him know how you feel about the situation again by letting him know how you feel about it. If he continues to shame you or does anything similar to that, you should do this. I want you to give some consideration to what it is that I am about to say. My son, who is currently in his younger 20s and is about to get married now, was born when I was in my early 20s. What do you think I told him when he called and told me he was engaged? Don't do it. No, son, the red pill you got. No, that is not respect for your child. Men listening, paying attention. That is not showing love and concern for your child. Showing love and concern for your child means being able to understand that once your child reaches the age of 18, they are a young adult and they are going to bump their head, and that it builds character, and you have to let him do that. Now, I will say this, obviously he is familiar with my content, so it's not like he hasn't heard me say these things before and after my second marriage. Now, I will say this, obviously he is familiar with my content, so it's not like he has. My first marriage was to his mother, and when it ended, he saw what it did to me. After my second marriage, my son Sean was the one who actually came to me and said, "You've got to stop with this." Well, I'll say this much, when that marriage ended, he saw what it did to me, and after that marriage ended, my son Sean was the one who actually came to. It's been over a year and a half, so you need to stop moaning about this and being pessimistic. It's high time we did something to show you some tough love, and that's what I'm going to give you, Gentlemen, this is what I tell you here on this channel, and this is what got me out of my funk, so just keep that in mind, alright? Because there are times when you require that, and you do not require people to appease you. The point of this is that parents who do not respect boundaries with their children are typically toxic. They engage in toxic behaviors, and you, as a man, need to establish a clear boundary between the two of you. If you are at least 18 years old, living on your own, and responsible for paying all of your own bills, then you qualify for this. If you pay all of your own bills and you take care of everything and you are not dependent on your parents for money or handouts or anything like that, then those are very important factors for you to consider. They ought to regard you as a man because you are doing what I refer to as buying and paying for it, and when people say things to me, I respond by saying that anything that has been bought and paid for is the equivalent of fuck you money, and it's not for everybody. But when you are a man capable of standing on his own 2 feet and taking care of his own business. I only answer to my children because I care about them, love them, and want to be there to assist them in any way that I can, whereas with everyone else, I answer to whoever is most important to me at the time. I don't put my dog on a leash, if you get what I'm saying, except maybe at work because I'd like to keep my job for a little while longer, but this is something that you need to comprehend. There's no need to drive a wedge between that relationship or crush mother dear if your parents don't respect boundaries with you when you're 31 years old, but you do need to address the issue. If you do so carefully and kindly. There's no need to crush mother dear. But if she is giving you the ultimatum that if you don't do what she wants she will drive a wedge between the relationships, then you should give the hammer to her. You are aware of one more thing that you need to comprehend, and that is the fact that many mothers coerce their sons or daughters into having children because they want a grandchild. Which, is not a bad thing if you're the daughter because you could potentially win financially there as well, but if you're the son and your mother is pressuring you to get married, then it's not a good thing. Therefore, you can have a baby and she can have a grandbaby or grandson, or she wants that baby more than she cares about the fact that she knows the process could cause you to suffer financially and emotionally. Having a baby is a wonderful experience, however, the anguish of having that baby taken away from you and not being able to participate in its life is incomparable. My advice to you is to talk to your dad first carefully and respectfully. Don't go in pounding your chest and having to show you're a man just as soon as you feel like you aren't being respected or, as you said, are being dismissed. This is something I've experienced 5 times in my life, so my advice to you is to talk to your dad first. They are being unconcerned about it by saying things like, just don't have a baby and don't get married, and when they bring it up again in 6 months, you can just disregard them. That's right, what's healthy for the hen is also healthy for the gander. It's an extremely old proverb, and I have no idea what a gander is, but it sure does sound catchy.